Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am very excited to talk to you guys again today about Avatar especially. So this will be my fourth viewing and my second time seeing it alone. I saw it twice with friends and then the first and then fourth time alone. I really might do a fifth one. You know, it hasn't been quite as frequent as Way of Water was, with me just thinking about it constantly, wanting to go back and experience those emotions again. But I've definitely felt the same thing with Fire and Ash. You know, especially seeing Lady Geneva's newest review. She has a 30-minute long video on, like, you know, all the little tiny details that she's noticed, a little similar to mine. You know, there's just so much to really dive into for like that 3+ hours. I really might do a fifth viewing. If they still have it in 3D in a week or so and I find time for it, I think I will. Just 5 seems like a good number. But yeah, so this will be a little more loose than my last video. Really, I just want to dive into more details and little nuances with stuff and talk about the future of Avatar and where it could go. It's rumored that there's going to be a time jump, so we could be seeing Loak and Kiri and Spider all grown up. Imagine how that might be. Spider would be, has been fully accepted by the people. You know, so we can only imagine where 4 and 5 will be, what they could be like. So yeah, and full spoilers, by the way, of course. But to, you know, bringing that up, Spider is accepted by the people when he connects to the spirit tree, just in the same way that Jake is accepted by the people in the first movie. Especially on rewatches with both Way of Water and Fire and Ash, I've really noticed how much Spider parallels Jake. You know, like I said with the ending, and it's just like they were both brought to Pandora from Earth. They were both human, and they've both been integrated into this new society that they have such a deep appreciation for, but in two completely different ways. Because they both have a relationship with Quaritch, and that's where the relationship triangle is, where in Spider, or a Venn diagram, so to speak, where Spider's in the middle, and then you have Jake, who's been fully Na'vi, and Quaritch, who's fully Na'vi. He has, you know, kind of two Na'vi dads. He has his real dad and his stepdad, and the dynamics it makes for is just it's so compelling. And then you can say Neytiri is sometimes an unwilling stepmom until she learns to see in Fire and Ash. So yeah, Spider is obviously the center. I don't even know if he's really the main character. He kind of is in Fire and Ash, not so much Way of Water. I guess maybe he is. Yeah, he's definitely the centerpiece of the movies. Even if I feel like Loak and Payakan are kind of more the center of Way of Water. So yeah, it's really about the kids. And then really, Kiri is kind of maybe a third or fourth lead in Way of Water. And then she's really, I would say, the second main character in Fire and Ash. She gets to learn her revelation of being, you know, her connection with Eywa that comes with an asterisk. You know, like, it would suck finding out you just straight up don't have a parent. That would be terrible. And that's, you know, even if subconsciously, that's what draws Kiri and Spider together. Is, you know, Spider, you know, never knew his mom. All he knows is what Quaritch tells her. And Kiri doesn't know her mom. It's only what her grandmother and what her parents tell her. but they both want a connection with Awa. They're so desperate for it. So I guess in a way, Keedy is like the director's stand-in in Way of Water, who Cameron sees himself as, and I really think it's Spider and Keedy in both films, and because they parallel each other so much too. So, in like Lady Geneva says in her videos, like James Cameron is a romance girly. Like James Cameron, he even says all his stories are love stories. He's a sentimental guy. Like who isn't? So all he's doing with these Avatar movies is painting the romance with Jake and Neytiri and Loak and Tisrea, Katie and Spider, Ronal and Tonawari. It's just all, it's not a romance movie per se. It's just all very there. And even Varang and Quaritch in this one. Their relationship is just so interesting. The power dynamic of her being, she is home field advantage. It's her place. He's just a visitor, but they're both compelled to each other. Like it's really interesting. And the whole colonizing a area and then giving the natives weapons, that's history. Lady Geneva, goes over some of the history involving that with the different projects, the U.S. has ran. She says, this is all real history, just painted a different color. It's painted blue, I guess, if you want to say. Jake being captured, how Earth reacts is pretty sound. It seems pretty accurate. Oh yeah, we would be cheering on. He would be so villainized. I can only imagine. Despite Quaritch still integrating himself with the Ash Clan, just not quite to the extent that Jake has. And Neytiri and Jake's scenes are such a highlight for me. It's like the Bridgehead prison escape, the whale court scene, just fantastic stuff. And then really it's all the stuff with Jake and Neytiri, their argument scenes. Really, they're just fighting. They're fighting their demons. Neytiri is especially. She just is so. It's just been too much for her. She's lost so much, but she gets her bow back, and then Jake gets Torok Makto back. Circling back to the first film, I think, and I realize especially Lady Geneva points this out, but parallels, but like with Jake and Neytiri and Jack and Rose from Titanic. Jake saying, "I don't know whether to yell at you or to kiss you," when Neytiri saves him, because he willingly gave himself up. He thought, "This is my path, brother," he says to Tonawari. Just like Jake and Rose, just like Jack, so upset with Rose for jumping back onto the boat. And even listening to the soundtrack, there's so many motifs that sound similar, obviously because James Horner is the composer of both movies. I love how Ronal and Neytiri are both injured the same way, so they both, and then Neytiri has to help her have her baby. It's a real, they don't really get along with each other, but they understand that they're both there for something more. One of my biggest criticisms, really my only criticism, is Quaritch and Varang. I just wish they had one more scene, one more shot, maybe of them looking at each other and Varang flying away. Something even simple like that could have done wonders for making their whole character feel better by having a better ending. A lot of people are, upset because there wasn't enough of the Magquan clan, and they wish that they dove a little deeper, or that the finale wasn't on a volcano. I do understand that. A volcano finale would be sick. Like, that would be awesome. But I think the floating rocks, fist fight was pretty great too. Cameron just wanted to be in the water. He wanted all the Tulkun to be there. He wanted all the clans to be there. He wanted everything to be centered at the Metkayina clan. I get it. Um, and Fire and Ash is more about the characters like guilt and the fallout from Way of Water than it is about the Fire Clan. But I think people have these crazy expectations for these movies. Like they go in wanting something and then they're upset because they didn't get it. They got what Cameron gave them, and it's like Cameron. He's playing in his sandbox, and it's just a little frustrating when people criticize these movies in such bad faith and not meeting them where they are. These are amazing movies. If you actually just give it a moment, see it in 3D, watch it without checking your phone. They're really immersive. The world's immersive. The character dynamics are always shifting. There's just so much to love. The visuals, the details. There's biblical allegories. Awa's, a big allegory for Christianity or any higher being you want to put to it. For being an atheist, Cameron is pretty spiritual, I think. The light always returns, like Loak says. And I guess my other criticism would be I just wish it was longer. I wish we got, one or two scenes with Tonawati, maybe something with him and Jake because they're both fathers in war. And, things are uneasy with him, accepting Uturu and having a sanctuary for Jake. It would just be awesome if we got one more scene of Varang and Quaritch really wrapping up their characters. It would definitely improve it for me. But yeah, I think 4 and 5, Cameron could go crazy. I know he wants to go back to Earth. There's so much they could do. So, for the future until then, I'm still going to be a huge fan of Avatar. I'll be playing Frontiers of Pandora. I'll be reading the comics, following the news, Maybe I learn Na'vi before the new one comes out. We'll see. But thank you for watching, as always. Stay tuned for any new videos. I should be doing some Tag Pro videos pretty soon, and we'll see what else. Thank you for watching.